Welcome to Bookwrights House. We're joined today by Vincent J. Tomeo, the author of The Usefulness of Hippopotamus. I'm Michaela Ramirez, your host from Bookwrights House, and we're ready to dive into a world of words and wonder. Welcome, Vincent. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you about your latest book, The Usefulness of Hippopotamus. Okay, so that's the cover of the book, The Usefulness of Hippopotamus. Let's
Yes.
start with the title itself, The Usefulness of Hippopotamus. I have heard that it came from a simple thought of a dancing hippopotamus from Disney's Fantasia. Can you share to us how this inspiration come about?
We all have challenges, and I had a challenge, and it's how you confront that challenge that makes all the difference. So I decided when I heard I had cancer that I was going to meet the challenge and I was going to use humor to help me get through the treatment. So I thought of something, because I didn't want to get in a funk. So I thought of something that would make me laugh. And I thought of Walt Disney's Fantasia and the dancing hippos, the hippo in a tutu and ballet slippers, and made me laugh. And as a result of that, I felt that the only way to get through the treatment was to confront it with humor and positive thinking, although that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But it did help. Oh. And as a result of that, I would like to share my book with other people so that if I could help anyone who's facing a challenge and they can read my book, and this will provide them with some cheers and laughter and joy, and maybe help them lessen their burden. Because we all have challenges to face, but it's how we face them. And this might make all the difference. Any kind of humor. Surround yourself with merriment and people that are pleasant and pleasing. And if there are people who are negative, don't let them rent space in your head. Socially distance yourself from them. Be around positive people. I always say when I end anything that I write, I usually say peace and flowers, love and light. I hope that as many people out there who really need something to help them get through a challenge, pick up my book and read it. And hopefully this will make you chuckle and laugh, and it'll help you get through. Of course, it's very hard when one faces difficult challenges. I mean, cancer's bad in itself, but the treatment's worse than the disease, because I didn't really know I had cancer until I found out. And then when I did the treatments, it was really rough. But I had a nurse, her name was Nurse Poe, and she said, "You're a poet. Why don't you, this treatment's going to hurt you, so why don't you just scream out one of your poems? And it might help you." And I did. And believe it or not, by the time they did a cystoscope, which was very painful, by the time they finished, I was still spouting my poem, and I didn't feel anything. It really helped me get through the treatment. So thank you, Nurse Poe, and people like her, and all the nurses out there that help people. And I hope my book could help people too. In fact, they should put it in every hospital in a waiting room, so people could pick it up and read it and maybe laugh. That should be my audience. But no, I would like the whole world to read this book. If you have any questions, just ask me. You want to know the title?
Yes.
The Usefulness of Hippopotamus? Because I thought of Fantasia, I thought of the dancing hippos. And I like to take something that's not so pretty and make it pretty and fun. Now the hippo is a very violent animal, but I made it made it fun and made it playful and cuddly. And, after reading my book, you'll fall in love with hippos. And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it was so brave for you to make a book, a humorous book, when you were battling with cancer yourself. Your poems often touch on the absurdity of everyday life. How do you find inspiration for your humorous pieces?
well, I tried in my poetry to take everyday objects and make them come alive. I don't want to be obtuse. I don't want to be I want anyone who reads my poems to identify with them. You all know what a chair is. You all know what a hippo is. Whatever I take an inanimate object and I make it come alive in fantasy. Fantasy helps me in my writing. In fact, many writers, half of what they say is fantasy. They may not admit it, but that's the truth in every book. Otherwise, they would never be able to get through. Um, I this book is I think should be in every hospital ward and in every waiting room. Now
In-
that's one thing. If you have any questions, please
yeah.
ask.
What do you hope the readers will take away from the usefulness of hippopotamus?
Humor. I hope that they can laugh at themselves, laugh at everyday things, take the absurd things, and just enjoy them. Now, maybe I could read a poem or two.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be great.
this is really. I will read a poem that I think everyone could relate to. Um, this one is called "Charging a Cell Phone."
Charging is helpful.
Let me do this. This is really terrible. I don't know how to control this. Okay. Charging a cell phone. My son visited me in the hospital. The whole time he was on his cell phone. I was on life support, struggling to breathe, survive. His phone was losing its charge. So he pulled the plug to charge his cell phone. Tomorrow, there will be a virtual funeral.
Oh, that's sad.
So you
And
have to. Humor's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but I have a couple of them. This one is I like to read this one. Well, here's one I think everyone could relate to. Toasted. I saw a cockroach crawl into the grating of my toaster broiler oven. I turned it on. Hundreds of tiny legs scattered in flames. Then all movement stopped. I smell something cooking. I lost my appetite.
The cockroaches were cooked inside the oven.
Yes, I got you laugh. Here, this one is another one. This is also very, everyone can relate to this.
Yeah.
Things my mother would say or ask as I got older. You should always make sure your underwear is clean. You never know if you must go to the hospital. Did you meet someone yet? Are you dating? Are you eating enough? Why don't you talk to me? Nothing to say? Why don't you get along with your brothers? When the full of brush man comes, do not answer the door. We do not have any money. When I am gone, you will be sorry. Are you dating? When will I have grandchildren? When I die, make sure I am buried with my slippers on. My feet are always cold. Did you eat? Do not tell your uncle you did not eat. Do not tell your uncle we have no money. Is everything okay? Will I see you married? Ma, please. So,
When we're older, our mothers always look out after us, even if
oh,
we're
mothers are treasures. My mother was a treasure and I loved her very much. But I could laugh along with her and never at her.
Yeah.
But that was one. Now I read my poems to my dog.
Yeah. Oh, to your dogs.
Yes, only Rex will give me all the time I need. Rex sits attentively, wiggles his tail when a poem rhymes, barks, growls at Gothic poetry, howls at slam. His ears rise when he does not understand. Rex nods his head when moved. After my readings, Rex touches me with his cold nose and licks my salty arm.
Your poems are really relatable to,
Of
the ordinary
course.
people. Yeah.
Now, this one really happened. I did a poetry reading at the library, and I'm going to read this. Notes on a poetry reading at the library. The librarian said, show slides with your poetry. If they do not understand poetry, they might enjoy the slides. The librarian said, play music with your slides. If they are not interested in your slides, they might enjoy the music. The librarian said, do you have any poetry for children? The librarian said, at the end of the reading, we will serve cookies, milk, and coffee, donated by Starbucks. This usually draws a large crowd.
That's
And
also
I'm,
true.
and I'm interested in the poetry that just went.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. You
uh,
know, yes.
from your writing, from your poems, I can hear and see that you have been writing for a while. Can you share a bit about your writing style? Of course, it's humor. How do you write humor? Is there how you address humor, or how do you craft the humor in your writing?
I am very much into positive thinking, and that helps me in my outlook on everything. I try to make my poetry relatable. So, as I said, I take inanimate objects and make them come alive, and I like to play with words and have fun. Poetry should be fun. It shouldn't be obtuse. If you read a poem and you don't understand it, then to me, the poet failed. Because he should be able to communicate. He or she should be able to touch you, move you, make you laugh, make you cry, make you whatever. But it has to be something that is relatable. I'm going to read you a poem. My mother was a treasure, and I respected her very much. And when she died, I went to her grave almost every day for about 5 years. And one day, it was Christmas, I got there late, and the gate was closed. A big bronze gate in the cemetery. And it had snowed. It was all white sheeted snow. So I climbed the fence and left my footprints in the snow.
Wow.
Yes.
You're a poet,
And
Vincent.
that really happened. That really happened. And the guard, who's in his car, who's sleeping, he didn't even see me. And I left all my footprints right to my mother's grave.
Vincent, are there any specific poets or writers who have influenced your work?
Oh, that's very difficult because it's like a necklace of precious pearls. How do you say one's better than the other?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Emily Dickinson is one. Alexander Pope is another. John Donne, metaphysic poetry. I love his play with words. He wrote The Flea, which goes something like this. Mark but this flea, how little thou deniest me is. It sucketh me first, and now sucketh thee, and in this flea our one blood mingled be. He's sitting with his girlfriend, and she's very coy, and he wants to get close and make love, and she doesn't want any part of it. She's very coy. So he says, well, look, the flea bit you, and he bit me, and our bloods mingled in one, so why are you holding back? But he's a great poet.
Yeah.
There's some of the modern poets, Frost, so. You know, I like nature, but you know, I like uh, Rainer Marie Rilke is a German poet. Very, very interesting. I love his work. Um, there are poets from all over the world, but I would say Rainer Marie Rilke, Alexander Pope, who's English, Emily Dickinson, who's American. So you have those three different nationalities. And there are many more. As I said, it's like a necklace of precious pearls. Each one has so much to offer. Uh, my favorite poem, my favorite poem is by Robert Browning, "My Last Duchess." That's my last Duchess painted on the wall. Right? That's a wonderful poem. There's so many I couldn't even begin to tell you. But I find that I love to read, but sometimes I'm always very busy. I don't have time for a big 500-page volume, although I have read books, you know, like that. But it's easy to pick up a poetry book, read a poem or two, or three or four, put it down, and come back to it whenever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do that often, you know, so that helps me. And also, I'm very much, I love to fantasize and dream, and poetry is a lot of that. So, yes.
Yeah, what makes your poetry so accessible and at the same time enjoyable to a wide audience?
Well, humor, everybody wants to. You know, we live in a very sick, sad, sorry world today. And we need more warmth. We need more love. We need more humor. We need to laugh. And I think everybody's hungry for that.
Yeah.
Because it's delicious. And so if you could get people to laugh, you know, what's a smile? You see someone smile, it change. A smile increases the face value. When you smile, it's saying, "Hi, I'm a warm person. How are you today? Look, I'm like a sunflower. I'm shining. I'm letting in the light." And that's what I want to do with my poetry. And I want you to come along with me. You know, this poem, "My Cemetery Friends," is not about the dead. In fact, it's a celebration of life. Walking through a garden, I find peace and solace walking in a garden. I've been doing this every day for 35 years. I live in Flushing, Queens, which is a heavily populated urban area. Very difficult. So I need to find space where I could meditate and where I could find peace and serenity and walk. This is a garden. There are birds, there are bees, there are flowers, there's pathways. The dead aren't going to kill me, you know. This is our past, our future, and our present, all in one. So when I walk through the garden, by the way, it won 3 international seals.
Wow.
It has
Congratulations, Vincent.
Huh?
Congrats.
I'm sorry. It has, thank you. The notable book from Pacific Book Review, and then it has the Hollywood Book Review, excellent merit, and then it's a United States Review of Books recommended, and it's been archived in the Vatican. I sent it to the Pope. And it is about the people I met in the cemetery, and it's their story. It's like 6 degrees of separation. You meet someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
And I walk through, and it starts out with my friendship Father Zanin, who I met. It was raining, and they were burying someone, and no one was there, just the casket. So I stopped, said a prayer, and after he said, "Are you family?" I said, "No." He said, "Are you friends?" "No." He said, "Well, who are you?" I said, "Well, nobody should be buried all alone." So I stopped to say a prayer. So he said to me, "Oh, that's very commendable." He said, "Well, what brings you here?" I said, "Well, my mom's buried here. My whole family's buried here, but I come walking here." So he says, "Let me walk with you to your mother's grave and bless her." So we walk to my mother's grave, and on my mother's grave, he blesses her in the rain. And that was the beginning of a long friendship. 35 years.
Wow.
Now, Father Zanin he served his country both in World War II and the Korean War. So he served his country and he served God. He said that if he survived the Battle of Chosun in South Korea, that he would devote his life to God. He survived that battle and he became a priest and he devoted his life to God. And he was the chapel of the cemetery. So that was his whole thing. And he was very humorous. I mean, he would bury people and say jokes on their grave. And it was very, he was really unique and a nice guy. So in fact, he came to some of my poetry readings. And one time he said to me, Vincent, you're a very good poet, but you're holding back. Let your emotions out. Get your feelings out. And I said, he's right. And that changed everything. I did. And from that point on, it started taking work. So thank you, Father Zanin. In fact, when Father Zanin died, they called me up and they asked me, the cemetery, St. Mary's, and they asked me if I would read a eulogy for him. And I did. I read the eulogy that I wrote for Father Zanin. And where he's buried in his niche, his ashes, is my poem that I wrote. It's alongside him in the niche. So Father Zanin was a very special man, and a friend, and I kind of miss him. So he's one of the people that I met, but there are so many other people I met in the cemetery. Even the workers, they know me, they see me. Hey, Mr. T, how are you? Oh, I'm good.
I think,
I put them in the acknowledgement. I thanked them.
yeah.
And they thanked me. I gave them all a book and I signed it, and they were just so pleased. They said, oh, no one ever recognizes us. I said, why not? They should. And so I'm going to see the acknowledgement. I'll read it. All right. Well, I dedicated the book. This book is dedicated to the 10 soldiers from Corona, Queens, who were killed in the Vietnam War, and also pays homage to all those who gave their last full measure of devotion in defense of our freedom. I honor their extraordinary gallantry. May they rest in peace and everlasting dignity. And I put the names of all the people I knew. My friend, a student, a friend of mine, his name is Chucky Eglin. We grew up together, went to school together. He was killed in the war. So I honored him. And I honored all the guys from my neighborhood of all races. They were Spanish, they were black, they were white, they were Italian, a little bit of everything. But they were all working class guys. And they didn't have the money to go to college and avoid the draft. They were drafted. And unfortunately, I was sick. I had rheumatic heart, so I couldn't be drafted. So, anyway.
Vincent, the reason why you were able to share positivity and light to the people, to your readers, is because you were surrounded with very optimistic and very light people in your life.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
So
my mother being a very optimistic and kind person, she was a treasure. And I was very fortunate in that regard to have a mother who was an emotionally strong and giving person, showered us with love and gave us dignity and strength. And when I was 17, I asked her, she knew I love to travel and I want to go to Paris, and because that was my wish. And she said, okay, you could go. I went to Paris.
A very supportive mother.
Yes, she was very supportive.
Vincent, what do you find most rewarding about being a writer or a poet?
Very good question. Writing is many things. Abraham Lincoln said that writing is the ability to communicate from the grave to the yet unborn. So you never die in writing. You live on, even though you go on to wherever you go in death, but you never die because you live on in your writing. That's one thing. Number two, writing is my way of screaming and telling and getting out my feelings without, upsetting other people. You know, so I could ventilate in writing what I'm feeling and get it out on paper. And then there's the third thing about writing. I could have a lot of fun, play with words, have fun. I could create my own world. One day I was sitting down and I had a blank piece of paper and I didn't know what to write. I said, what am I going to write? And I looked around in my house, and you look in the back, you see all the paintings and things, right? So I said, oh, look, I have so many things to write. I made them all come alive and walk out of the frames and dance and do all sorts of things. And I created a whole series of little short stories about all the objects in the house.
Yeah. Vincent, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring writers, what would it be?
Don't let anyone discourage you. Keep on keeping on. You may be rejected once. You may be rejected twice. You may be rejected 3 times. But you know what? You may be one of the greatest writers. And you will be surprised. You will be published. Write, learn from mistakes, and take constructive criticism. If it's constructive and it's going to serve you, take it and run with it. Don't be, don't tell tough day. No, learn from it. And don't be afraid to let your feelings out. As long as you have dignity and you treat people with dignity, and I don't like people that are mean or hateful or any of that. But I don't think I have to tell the writer that. I think they know what they have to do. So you want to touch hearts, you want to change minds, you want to be kind, you want to be cheerful, but you also want to be serious because it's not a joke. You could have them laugh, but not laugh at you, but with you.
Yeah.
And
Wow. That's a nice piece of advice. Before we wrap up, Vincent, is there anything else you'd like to share to our readers and our viewers?
Yes, both books are cheerful in the sense that while they're different subjects, they both take a positive view of the world. My Cemetery Friends is a walk in a garden where one can find peace and solace among nature and at the same time discover so much. Don't be afraid to walk even in a cemetery because the dead aren't going to kill you. It's the living, unfortunately, we have to be afraid of. That's number one. Number two, living a fantasy is fun. And I try to make things come alive. I have a friend who calls me a hippo. And I'm her little hippo. So,
Yeah.
and so that also has another meaning. I took a hippo because it is a really violent animal, but I made it mellow and childish and sort of cuddly,
Lovable.
and lovable. Yes, because in real life they're not. In
Yes.
real life they're vicious. But you could, this is my fantasy world. I created this world.
Yeah.
And so I could do whatever I want.
Yes.
And I had fun doing it. Yes.
Where can our readers get your book?
Okay, they could get both of them online. They could go to Amazon and, just put the Usefulness of Hippopotamus and put my name, and you'll go to Amazon. You could probably get them in bookstores, Barnes and Noble. You could probably, wherever, books are sold. Yeah. And the same thing with this. And I would suggest reading both of them. And, for different reasons, but they're both positive. And this one will make you laugh, and that's the whole point. Positive thinking. I'm a very positive thinker. Um, and I'm very grateful to be alive and to be well and to be in remission. I know what pain is. I've been there. Uh, I was blind. I know what blindness is. And oh God, I'm so pleased and happy to have sight. But being blind taught me how to see. And I now see everything. And I look everywhere. And I savor it and enjoy it and say, gee, I never saw that before. Why did I miss it? When I was walking through the cemetery, I looked through a mausoleum and this is what I saw, the angel. It was beautiful. I took my camera, took a picture. Here it is on the cover of my book.
Wow.
Of course, I have the name of the mausoleum and the name of the people that were, buried inside. I want people to find peace and solace and realize that in the sick, sad, sorry world that we live in, there's also joy, there's also love, there's so many good people, and most people are good, and we're all looking for the same thing. So smile and offer them your hand and open your heart and see where it goes.
Wow.
Enjoy the journey.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, Vincent. I had a great time and I
Me too.
appreciate you
Thank,
taking the time to share to us your story, your books, your
thank you.
poems.
Thank you very much, and you are a breath of fresh air, a beacon of light in a world of emotional pigments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All the best, Vincent. Have a great
Thank you. You too. Bye bye. Oh, and happy Halloween
Yeah,
and happy
happy
Thanksgiving. And Merry Christmas.
I will enjoy cemetery from now on.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Vincent.
Bye bye.